Hey everybody, welcome to the At Cause podcast. I'm here with Kevin Cougar. And Kevin, what are we going to talk about today?
Content. We're talking about content is king for 2022 and beyond.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The beyond is so that this podcast stays relevant past 2022.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I hope it does. We've been doing a little bit better job of being consistent.
Absolutely.
We're
on the horse.
Our desperate attempt to create relevant content. So obviously, Full Sail Media is a marketing company. If you didn't know it, now you know. And, one of the things that we're always doing is staying on top of trends. Not that content's a new trend or anything. However, I think that it's becoming increasingly more and more difficult to create content that is relevant, that matters, and that people want to consume. Right. So I think that all of our customers that we have on a content schedule, whether it's what I would call basic bitch package, right?
We can say that.
versus like top of the line. We're running video every month, writing long form articles, doing case studies. That's like our top echelon, right? So I feel like anybody that's putting out content is winning, right?
Right.
So number one, I would say that if you're doing it, great.
Right.
If you're not, you need to start because you're going to fumble through it, right? And there's no way to just be freaking or be Gary V in week one, right? It's not going to happen. So I think that you got to get that thought out of your mind first of all, and just say, hey, let's level set and let's just start somewhere.
Get in the ring.
So number one, content is king.
Right.
And I think we just wanted to rap about a couple ideas around what's working. Gary Vee says, document, don't create. Obviously, he's the master of creating content.
Absolutely.
Who are some other people that do a great job of creating content?
Nelson Anderson.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that look at it, content is obviously the new literacy. If you're communicating at all, you're communicating through content. If you look at where the trend lines have gone, I can't count how many hours people spend scrolling, right? They're looking through their content. And so that's why content is king, is it's the new literacy level. Yeah. When we say content, we're not just talking about video, we're also talking about blog content, and we're also talking about, articles that are written, and we're also talking about posting. We're talking about anything that you put out to send a message to your audience, your constituency. And I think what's humbling about that is it's changing. It's changing during this conversation.
Right.
What's going to be the new trend line, or what is the new algorithm, or what is the new way of doing it right? Is going to be different by the time we put this podcast out.
Totally.
By the time I finish talking in this podcast, something is going to change.
Right.
And that's really humbling from a creative director's standpoint, is just keeping up with trend lines. But again, I think what's important about doing it is just getting in the ring and trying. I think a lot of people, and I've count myself amongst them, sit too long on the bench thinking about how to craft the perfect message, how to create the perfect content that's going to get the job done. And I think there's a false logic in there, is when you're getting up to create content, it's less about creating the perfect bite and more about creating several bites, creating stuff that's going to keep people engaged over the long haul.
Personal bites.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Found footage almost. I think some of the most interesting things that I see on TikTok or on Reels or in any place are people holding up talking about their day and what they're getting into. I think is really cool. I think it's also changed the landscape about how marketing agencies sell what they sell. Because now we're in the business of talking about staying on message and relevant and producing content at a breakneck speed in order to keep I liken it to that game where you blow up a balloon and you pass it around the room and you keep having to tap that balloon up so it doesn't hit the ground. Content works a lot like that. It's once it comes, you got to re-tap that balloon and re-tap that enthusiasm level. which is it's humbling because that in and itself of itself has become a challenge for the content creator.
Totally. And I think that for us, I'm gonna play my violin here and say, we're always thinking about our customers' content,
right?
And we really suck at putting out content for ourselves sometimes.
Any day now, we'll get better at it. Any day now.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So we have a plan, right? It starts with a plan.
There it is.
No, it starts with doing it, right? So you need to get out there and do it, whether that's impromptu on the iPhone, flip it around and record yourself with whatever you're going through that day, or whatever you think is going to be helpful. I think the point of creating content is connecting with your audience in a valuable way of like, is what I'm saying going to help them? Is like personally, professionally, is it going to add value of any kind?
Right.
And is it going to connect you with them?
Right.
And maybe helping them is telling about what you do. I can remember so many times back in the print company, like we've told people what we do, but until they walk through our shop, and I always wanted to create like a shop tour, and I never did it, right? And
great content.
Yeah. And now we can do it now, right? But I guess it's never too late.
Right.
But the point is, like, every time anybody would come through, they'd be like, "Oh, I didn't know you do that." I'm like, "Well, I did like 40 social posts and like sent 20 emails." But the point is, it probably wasn't engaging enough for them to pay attention, right?
Right.
So I think it's measuring it, right? It's once you start doing it, and then what kind of traction is it actually having? Russell Brunson, read his book, Expert Secrets, and he talks about doing a podcast, and he committed to doing a podcast, like getting up and doing one every day.
Wow.
And he would interview people, and he's like, the first 56 of them like sucked really bad. And he talks about this, like, I'm just happy nobody really listened to him, but it's gonna take 56 of them for you to get it right. And I mean, Russell Brunson's a pretty big name, so I would suggest that, hey, if his first 56 sucked, then I can suck at a few.
I think when you said it boils down to in content about meeting your audience where they're at with what you've got.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know who I heard say it, but authenticity is the new black.
Right.
That like people are listening to content and they want to hear your individual voice and your individual perspective. I think it's pretty cool when people can get up and talk. I mean, you mentioned Gary Vee a bunch, and I think he's obviously a legend in our industry. But what I find so cool about it is that he creates so much content, but it all seems to be from the heart.
Yeah.
And I think that is something remarkable that we can impart to other people that are making content, is like, be yourself, be authentic, talk about your own experience instead of theory. And I think it's a winning package.
Totally. Because why it's a winning package, I believe, is when you attract like-minded people and you work with like-minded people, like customer provider relationship. Then there's something magical, right? And you don't rub each other the wrong way, and they turn into much longer lasting relationships when you're just attracted and you're like-minded, right? So, I want to work with somebody that I have the same passions with, right? I mean, that's my desire. Like, this is a long life. We have a long way to go. And I want to do this. I'm at work the majority of my time. So not only am I surrounding myself with employees that I want to be friends with and hang out with after work, but I also want to do that from the customer side.
Sure.
There are enough customers out there to do that. Right. And we can be choosy, and we can attract those people that are like-minded, and I think that just it's a good lifestyle, right? And it's going to energize us. It's going to help us do things better,
right?
And so I'm a big fan of that, and I think content is a way to make that attraction, right? And to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm struggling with, or this is what I just went through. And I think another rule in speaking of that is to speak from experience and not from theory.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm not going to talk about what I'm not. I might talk about what I'm not doing, but I'm not going to say that it works until I've been through it. Right. And I mean, that was one of the big reasons why we started the marketing company, Full Sail Media, was because in our print, we had so much digital marketing pieces that worked for us. Right. I wanted to do that for my customer. I was industry aside, whatever that is. I was a small business that was struggling to grow, right, in a really old industry, and so I employed new technology and new ideas, new strategies in an industry that resisted anything digital.
Got it.
The digital was the enemy, right?
Sure.
I mean, really. I mean, it's you go to some of these conferences and it's the enemy. So. But by embracing it, actually was the thing that helped me grow. And so, like, hey, I just wanted to do that for other small businesses, right?
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the main passion points, the main reasons why, starting Full Sail had to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And print is still a big part of the conversation when you're talking about content. When you're talking about an omni-channel approach, there is still a place, and obviously a big place, for creating content in that direction and in that vein too.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So
and it leaves it's actually right now is the trend up, right?
Sure.
So direct mail, we're seeing response rates approaching double digits. Which is unheard of.
Right.
It's absolutely insane what we're seeing print get results in, because it went away. What's old is new, what's new is old, right?
Right, absolutely.
I mean, that's what.
Do you find that surprising? I mean, you hear the adage "print is dead," quote unquote, which obviously we don't agree with, and I think is silly. But are you surprised by the change?
I think that I'm not surprised, if anything. It's really just, it's not surprising. No, I would say that if anything, that I'm surprised that digital is not falling sharper than it is. If anything, it's more and more traction.
Right.
We live in a digital first world, right? But why it's a weird dichotomy, right? Sure. And so I would have thought that one would give up over the other. No, it's like both are surging.
They complement each other.
Yeah, and they do. And we run a lot of programs with direct mail and digital complementing each other. So
that's why content is king.
That's why content
for
is king.
2022 and beyond.
Totally.
23, 24. Cool. Great talk. Thanks, guys, for joining us for the At Cause podcast. Thanks for spending your time with us this afternoon. I'm Kevin Kukar.
Nelson Anderson. Have a great day.
We'll catch you on the next one.